I'll be working on home designs and looking at references from 3,000 years ago and reading the Old Testament at the same time. So it's like a soundtrack to the visuals of the shapes and the ideas and ideals of what we're creating. A lot of my creative friends, I tell them like the Bible is better than Pinterest, and bring something into space and time we exist in while reflecting thousands of years of truth. Okay, it says, you should keep my statutes. You should not let your cattle breed with a different kind. You should not sow your field with two kinds of seed, nor shall you wear a garment of cloth made of two kinds of material. I tell my apparel team that the clothes that we're using, like single material. I remember sending a manager I used to work with a really rude email about how every time he wore this wool jacket with leather sleeves, he set culture back by 10 years. I can send him the verse from the Bible that says, you should not wear a garment of cloth made of two kinds of material.
Tell me a little bit about the creative process where you design one of these.
You start with a sketch, start with a vintage reference. It could start with a previous shoe that we created that we're making a newer version on. You know, feelings of films and experiences that I grew up with. Akira, the movie Akira, my mom took me to see Akira when I was really young, and the shapes and the color palettes and the general mood of the film had always been a big inspiration for Yeezy. And going to auto shows with my dad, you know, the first time I saw a white Lamborghini Countach in real life, and I remember the guy said I couldn't even touch the car, and I was obsessed with this car as a child. Or, you know.
Is there any shoe that Countach is kind of represented in?
These are Yeezys. People have camped out at shoe stores, hired taskers to wait in line on their behalf. Recently, some of that excitement has turned to skepticism.
Are Yeezys dead?
Is Yeezy resale dead?
Is Yeezy still cool?
Certain Yeezy models cost a lot less on the resale market than they used to, and resale prices are a telltale sign of a product's cachet, especially for hypebeasts. But it turns out, this is all part of West's grand plan for his sneaker empire. Here's how West created one of the most hyped sneakers of all time, and the struggles he's facing trying to build the brand into a household name.
When I first got into sneakers back in middle school into high school, I just had this one pair of Adidas Superstars that I thought was the end-all be-all. Then I remember scrolling through my Facebook timeline and this beautiful red image of a pair of Kanye's Red October Nike sneakers popped up on my feed, and that was the first time that I stopped to look at a sneaker, just from a purely piece of art point of view. And I just thought to myself, wow, I need to find a way to get those.
Over the course of 5 years, West and Nike released the Air Yeezy 1, the Air Yeezy 2, and the Air Yeezy 2 Red Octobers. Retailing at over $200, the shoes were released in extremely limited quantities and sold out instantaneously. They now resell in the thousands of dollars. The success of the shoes finally put West on the map in the fashion industry.
Kanye West was really sort of passionate and desperate and really actually thoughtful. He didn't want to just be sort of a celebrity fashion designer.
To break into the fashion industry, West interned at Fendi in 2009, where he was paid about $500 a month. In 2015, West even said he went $16 million in debt, trying to get a clothing line off the ground.
But no matter what he did, he still couldn't quite knock down those doors. And so he took an alternative route through the sneaker world.
West says he was a sneakerhead as a kid, even though he didn't have the money to buy the shoes he loved.
When I was in 4th grade, I was drawing Jordans. When my mama couldn't afford them, I was drawing those Jordans. Getting kicked out of class for drawing them.
West got his start as a producer on Jay-Z's 2001 album, The Blueprint. He hit it big as a hip-hop artist after releasing his own album, The College Dropout, in 2004. West set his sights on another passion of his: fashion. He even told a New York Fashion Week crowd in 2016 that his dream is to be the shoes instantly clicked with fans.
First pair of sneakers that really got me into sneaker collecting was that pair of Red October Yeezys. He articulated something in those sneakers that really resonated with me without saying a word, me not knowing anything about them. That sneaker was the spark that cascaded the entire rest of everything you see here over the past.
A little bit of Lamborghini in everything I do.
Right. All right. So
Yeezy is the Lamborghini of shoes.
The idea comes to you, you sketch it out, and then what?
We have a team of incredible designers. We'll take the entire design team to Japan. We'll take the entire design team to Zone and talk about, you know, where we'd like to take these ideas. And I mean, it's a painting, it's a spirit that's inside of it that's now, I'm just soaking in all the shoes. Like, look at all these, look at these designs, look at these ideas all together. Protos, the versions that you've seen in actuality and the versions that never quite made it. To be able to see inside of this, there's, you know, this is an infinite amount of words in front of you. There's so many prototypes that go into what you eventually get.
How many prototypes do you think per shoe you'll cycle through before you get to the one that you actually
It's
want?
hundreds. We work on, like I said, miniature vehicles. We work on shoes like someone would work on a car.
Let's say we're looking at 2,000 shoes. How many do you think are prototypes that'll never be available outside of this circle?
I'm not a numbers guy.
But mostly.
I'm a feeling, it's a inspiration, it's channeling, you know, and I'm not a numbers guy. That's the thing, that's the thing is everyone, it's all these like calculations. This right here is, you say you love sneakers, right?
Yeah.
You can't calculate love. Do you love seeing these?
I love seeing them. I'm just curious
What's the feeling that you get? So when you get joy, do you try to calculate? You know, like if you get a surprise cake from your grandmother and you didn't know she was in town,
yeah.
Do you start asking her about the batter and specifically the frosting?
Perhaps not, but I'm not writing a story about my grandma, so.
Well, that's what people need to realize about artists and people who dedicate their life and go to the hospital and back to bring joy, that they should be loved.
3+ years.
In Yeezy's first 8 years or so, hype around the shoe was at its strongest. Yeezy started as a partnership with Nike in 2009 before West switched to working with Adidas in 2013. During the Nike years and in the first few years of his partnership with Adidas, customers went to great lengths to get their hands on a pair.
Any website you go to, Yeezys would probably sell out in under like 5 seconds. I've seen people camp for Yeezys in the dead cold winter. I've seen people like have like their little tents or whatever, or just bundled up in a lot of jackets or something.
Caleb Chen is one of many sneaker flippers cashing in on the Yeezy's hype.
I bought the Bread V2 for about $220, and I've sold it for about $11 to $20.
Certain Yeezy models that West released with Adidas, like the Yeezy Boost 700 Wave Runner, which came out in 2017. It drew comparisons to ugly dad shoes.
Everyone across the internet was just like, oh my God, what is this? This is disgusting. Is this a joke? And I had all those same thoughts, but thinking about the big picture, I said every other time people or myself have thought that exact same thing about a sneaker Kanye has put out, people eventually turn around and go, oh, I was wrong. I wish I jumped on those sneakers when I had the chance.
But designing sneakers just for hype beasts wasn't good enough for West. That's why he ultimately left Nike for Adidas in 2013. More creative freedom, and to turn Yeezys into a household name. West told BBC Radio in 2013 that he didn't want to be just another celebrity with his name attached to a sneaker.
People didn't love the Yeezys the way they did for no reason. Picture this, for me to do the Yeezys and not have a joint venture backing deal with Nike the next day would have been like if I made Jesus Walks and was never allowed to make an album.
West told Ryan Seacrest that he found the partner he was looking for. Hype around Yeezys fueled West's ambition, except the more shoes he released, the less special they became.
Kanye West has called himself Walt Disney, he's called himself Steve Jobs, so we know that it's not just about a physical sneaker. It's about when he is gone and we are talking about Kanye West, we don't talk about just the music. We talk about what he's created, what he's left us, his stamp on the world.
West wants his Yeezy's legacy to go way beyond an expensive and inaccessible shoe. In fact, he wants quite the opposite. West spoke with Ryan Seacrest in 2015, kind of like the Adidas Superstar, which are readily available at their typical retail cost. To this day, it's still an iconic emblem of the Adidas brand. However, the Superstar's popularity is cyclical.
And treat it like how you would treat your grandmother giving you a cake, because these things are made to bring uncalculable joy. So to ask me to somehow translate this to numbers is to ask your grandmother exactly what the recipe of the cake was. There's spirit. Right. There's spirit inside of this thing. It's a soul. It's like, that wasn't calculated when Jordan switched hands. The fact that people are seeing all of these shoes are inside of every single shoe. It all flows through. Everything flows into everything. And this is how connected we are as human beings. All of them have a spirit. They're all of the family. There's not one bad shoe. Any of these shoes that even didn't make it 20 years from now, you'll look up and that shoe would be, worth to the numbers guys. What's a Picasso sketch worth? A Warhol sketch. Look from this, put yourself in the center. Just walk right here. You can step on some of these. Come to the middle. Don't worry about stepping on them. I know the maker.
How do you feel?
Still, patient, and blessed.
Are any of them talking to you right now?
Yeah, there are a lot that I really love. I mean, I love them all.
If the goal is to scale Yeezy into a multi-billion-dollar brand, experts say there's still a long way to go.
There were probably 1 million, maybe 1.5 million Yeezys sold last year in pairs in the United States and throughout the world. Adidas made 400 million pairs of shoes last year. 1 million pairs of Yeezy is really a drop in the ocean. There's a reason why the numbers of shoes are made by Adidas for Yeezy. It's not because there's no factory space to build the shoes. They simply are creating this artificial sense of scarcity. When you think about it in that light, it really tells you that the product can't be a larger story. It has to be limited in what it brings.
In other words, demand for Yeezys just isn't strong enough to produce the shoe in much larger quantities. Nike and Adidas have never revealed how many Yeezys they release per drop. But West said in 2015 that there were 9,000 pairs of his first Adidas shoe, the Yeezy Boost 750. But Adidas was also dropping Yeezys less frequently back then. The German sportswear company tested the extent of demand for Yeezys. Yeezys drop ever. There were rumors that over 1 million pairs of 350 V2 triple whites had hit the market in what Adidas called its most democratic drop in Yeezy. Suddenly, the shoes were lingering on shelves, and flooding the market with Yeezys cost the brand some of its cachet.
They did sell out, yes, but it took much longer than it had. It wasn't selling out in hours. The lines were lost, and
Yeezys tend to be dying. Is Yeezy resale dead? Do they not want them to be hype? I remember going into a store and seeing them sitting on shelves. Dude, this whole Yeezy thing is quite possibly just done.
By appealing more to the masses, the Yeezy brand has alienated some of its initial fan base.
To a certain extent, I think Yeezys have lost some of its wow factor. You start to think like, oh man, the chase isn't as there anymore because more people can get this shoe.
Scarcity is really important because ultimately hypebeast and sneaker culture love to flex. They love to have what the other person doesn't have. That's all they operate in, is essentially clout and bragging rights.
Today, buying and reselling certain models of Yeezys is a lot less profitable than it once was. Resale prices on many Yeezy models have plunged after a few re-releases of the same shoe or releases of the same model of shoe in a slightly different color. Once the resale price of a shoe reaches its original retail price, it means supply has met demand. It's become apparent about how many people really want Yeezys. And to keep people wanting Yeezys, analysts say it's critical to make sure supply stays behind demand. The reasoning is simple. When everybody can get one, nobody wants one. Powell says Yeezy's staying power will be determined by how carefully Adidas manages its Yeezy's inventory.
It's really critical that brands don't try to grow too fast here. It really takes a tremendous amount of strategic thinking and discipline to build a brand around a celebrity.
Powell says Yeezys could look to Jordans as an example of how to grow a brand while maintaining its cool factor. After all, it took Nike 3 decades to build its iconic Jordan brand, a collaboration between Nike and former NBA superstar Michael Jordan, into a $3 billion business.
For years, the Jordan business grew about 10% a year because that's all that Nike allowed to go into the market, was about 10% more. They could have been put in 20 or 30 or 50% more and probably sold them in the first year, but it would have been gone after that.
But Powell says Nike made a mistake when it flooded the market with too many Jordans in 2017 and 2018.
And the brand has lost its cachet. Now, can they build it back? Yes, but it will take years.